Welcome to episode 314 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV series, anime, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, or listen to it, and then we come back here and talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and my co-host comes from Deep River, Ontario, and got here by winning a jitterbug contest. It's Kyle Springer.
Hi, all of that is false. Or is it? Melissa, how are you? We are here on a Tuesday night. We both just wolfed down some dinner, and now we are here ready to podcast. What did you have to eat before you came?
Oh, your standard Trader Joe's panic run.
Oh, okay.
I picked Trader Joe's because it is a high quality of grab-and-go food, and it's much smaller than your standard grocery store, so I have less space in which to panic. I only have so many options. That helps.
Yeah, you're not but there's 50 options. What do I want? Do I want Hungry Man? Kid cuisine? The one where they spank the macaroni? The one where they...
No, I had chicken karage. I'm addicted to whatever that weird little sauce is. And tater tots. What is it about tater tots that you know they're tater tots?
Yeah,
no,
what is
but
it about tater tots, you know?
When you chew them in your mouth and they're no longer recognizably in the shape of a tot, you still know that's what it was. It wasn't a fry. It was a tater tot. How do they taste different than other potato form factors?
I don't know. I feel like it's the ratio. It's all because they're also not shredded, right? It's not the hash brown style shredded. So yeah, it feels like the crispy breading.
They're not breaded. They're just themselves.
Right, but you know what I mean, though, right? Like it has that crispy outside, like that shell almost. Right?
Yes.
Whereas even a fry, when they're crispy, I wouldn't describe that as a shell.
Yes. Right? But a shell certainly is a different mouthfeel, but how does it have a different taste? We were already coming here to ask a lot of big questions about the movie we're going to talk about tonight. We don't need to also spend time on tater tots.
You know what? If David Lynch created a movie all about tater tots, I think it'd be the most fascinating movie / documentary, whatever it would be about it.
It would blur the lines.
Right, yes.
I believe he could have done it if he had set his mind to it. God. David Lynch is one of those folks that minimizes everything in their life that is not creative output. And he ate like tuna salad every day for years, just so we never had to think about what lunch was, and he could think about Mulholland Drive instead.
Right. I almost did that for a period of time. My lunch was the exact same thing every day for years. But anyways, Mulholland Drive, that's what we're here to talk about this episode. Yes, we wanted to do something in honor of David Lynch. Unfortunately, he recently passed, as I'm sure a lot of you are aware. And yeah, like it's interesting because you and I are both at the age in our life where like the people we grew up with are either getting married or they're having kids, or hopefully not, but they might be getting divorces in the next year or two here. And there were a couple, like there's a few of those like older level of like movie stars and celebrities that were starting to be like, I watched his stuff when I grew up and now I like now he passed away. Man, that sucks. We're just starting to hit like the edge of that, right?
Yes.
And some of those, it is the like, oh shucks, like I remember him fondly, and that's kind of it. You move on with your life, and then there's some that just hit, and I think for me,
this one hit.
David Lynch was just like, oh fuck, man, like this sucks, and to be fair with myself, I'm not even super familiar with his filmography. I'm a
Mhm.
big
Mhm.
fan of Twin Peaks, but outside of that, I haven't really explored much of his stuff except for what we watched tonight. Um, but even still, like everything I had heard about him as a creator and as an artist
Mhm.
was just like, I like that guy. That guy's awesome. He's
Yes.
so cool. And so yeah, when the news of his passing
Mhm.
hit, it really hurt.
Shocking.
Yeah,
I listened to Blank Check, a podcast about directors' filmographies, and they had just spent a couple months on a David Lynch series. Talked about all of his films, short films, all of Twin Peaks, and
yeah.
I'd been really immersed in this man's world. And it was doubtful if he was ever going to make another film because he had emphysema.
I
And
remember he announced at one point he's like, I'm
yeah,
not gonna make anything new.
well, he's like, what he said was, "I would love to explore options to direct remotely." He's like, "I can no
Mm,
longer be on a set. I have such breathing trouble, I couldn't risk any COVID exposure." I think it was something like that. But he's like,
right.
"I'd love to figure out another way I could direct a movie. I just can't do it the traditional way anymore." And
Mm,
fortunately, he never got to figure something out.
bummer. Bummer indeed.
Mhm.
But yeah, Mulholland Drive. This was my first time watching it. Melissa, you have now seen it twice, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, but the first time I watched it was New Year's Eve. Uh, when you're single in your 30s, this is what you do on New Year's Eve. Or like, what's a
Go for it. Why
long,
not?
weird movie I can spend time with? I'll do that tonight.
Mm,
So I've now seen it
interesting.
twice, but that's twice only in the last several months.
Sure. But this most recent time, you got to go see it in theaters. What was that
Yeah.
experience like?
It was part of the Alamo Draft House's David Lynch retrospective. Look it up. They put together a wonderful little trailer to play in front of all of their movies to promote this Lynch series. It's
That's
one of their
awesome.
best. They always edit together interesting trailers, and this was an outstanding one.
Deal.
And I saw Lost Highway there a couple weeks ago. That was my first time with Lost Highway. And a lot of these they were playing at like 9 p.m. They're trying to get the Midnight Madness crowd. So I was
Right. Yeah.
very grateful I could grab a nice normal Monday 6 p.m. Mulholland Drive.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Um, yeah, I had a great time with this. I was not sure what to expect. I think especially because I have been so like I've been such a big fan of Twin Peaks. That's kind of all I know of him and his style. That I was like, well, I've seen his TV show, and then like one movie, which was Fire Walk with Me, but that's in
Oh,
the Twin Peaks
yeah.
stuff. So right, like it's kind of the same stuff. But yeah, and then I guess in my recent rewatch of Twin Peaks, I watched The Return for the first time, which I thought was brilliant. And just not knowing his filmography, was not sure what to expect, and I felt right at home. I was like, oh,
Good.
a lot of the same actors, a lot of the same vibes, the same feeling, the same like weirdness that's happening, the bizarreness of dreams and ethereal feelings, and yeah, and I was just like, yes, I like this. This is fun.
I'm happy for a movie that is so strange, so uh difficult to really put your hands around. So insular. You can also draw a lot of lines from it to other pieces of media. I have a long recommendations list at the end of this podcast episode. I imagine
Awesome.
you do too. It does feel familiar and bizarre
Yeah.
in a way that not a lot of pieces of art get to do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think this is also one that I kind of knew and expected I would enjoy based on the bits of it that I had heard about over the years. So I feel like it's kind of incredible that I did not come across any spoilers, or not at least
Hmm.
nothing that I recognized as spoilers. But also, this is such a weird, bizarre movie with so many different interpretations of what happened that I don't know if you truly could spoil this. Um, I guess you can, but like it's just it's one of those that it is truly bizarre to a degree that it's like it's kind of difficult to talk about it really.
Yeah. The one definitive thing I knew about this movie was the scene with the scary figure behind the diner. And so when that happens, 15 or 20 minutes into this movie that's 2.5 hours long, I was like, what else could possibly happen? I thought it was leading towards this. This is like the major thing people talk about. And then we go through so many more turns. Kyle, do you know the origin story of this movie?
I briefly looked at their Wikipedia. I saw it was supposed to originally be a TV show.
Yes. This movie is a lot of it is what was shot as a TV pilot that did not go to series.
Mm,
And I don't know if the TV pilot construction of it exists in any form, but it's that elaborated on and expanded upon. It was a project David Lynch returned to, had the rights to, and was able to
interesting.
make into this film. And
That's cool.
it's wild that a failed TV pilot got re-edited and cobbled together with new footage that was shot like a year or two later, and it's one of the best films of the 21st century.
Right? Yeah. So just incredibly well known and well regarded as like this is an awesome one. Like go check it out. Um,
But you can still absolutely see the parts that were TV pilot set up. And nothing in a movie ever feels like that, which adds to
the
the
bizarreness.
uncanniness.
Yeah.
And that there are storylines, things that are barely even storylines. They're like little nubs that would eventually grow into storylines. But it's just that. It's like somebody will be on screen for 3 minutes. And you're like, I guess they would have been in episode 2, but there's no episode 2. And they just like leave the movie.
Right. Yeah. Too bad for Belly Ray Cyrus, who was only in there for like one scene. And that was it.
It's one of the best parts though.
It like that's the thing is like yeah, as much as this is a like serious like psychological thriller of a movie, yeah, there's actors that show up, there's things that happen in this that are just so strange that it's funny. And to
Mm.
see him just in bed with that with Justin Theroux's character's wife with his arms
His
crossed
arms
like that.
crossed constantly like a genie. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
strange.
it's so funny though. Um, but yes,
I love
I
that when you go to
absolutely
that
had a
part of the
blast with this.
movie, the soundtrack completely changes. It is like
Yes,
loud jazz in that part of the movie and only that part of the movie. And then
yeah.
it starts and then it stops and it's so much louder than any other music
It
in the movie.
it really feels a lot like he still had his like Twin Peaks brain
Mhm.
on and was like, what if I do Twin Peaks but set in Los Angeles, right? Like
Mhm.
in the midst of that stuff, because Twin Peaks also has that like really loud jazz that like doom, 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 that right that play, and it's just, like it sometimes comes out of nowhere, and it's just like this song is just weird. Why is this song here? Yeah, and stuff like that just made this really enjoyable.
Mhm. There's Every emotion is in this movie. There's such dread that lays over large portions of this movie.
Hmm.
It's not quite a horror movie, but it's close. There's parts that you just can't hold in giggles for like the whole time.
Right.
It was fun to experience that in the theater. So many sequences, just like constant low key snickering that nobody can hold in.
Yeah.
Um, there's heartbreaking moments. There's erotic moments.
Yeah.
Everything's in here.
Yeah. Good all around film. Melissa, I am
Yes.
going to toss this over to you as I normally do. Let's do a plot synopsis for Mulholland Drive. What's the simplest way to describe what this movie is?
A woman has amnesia after a car crash on Mulholland Drive, not knowing who she is, only knowing that somebody tried to hurt her. She runs away, she escapes, she sneaks into an apartment. And the next day, Betty arrives. Betty is a wide eyed young girl from Deep River, Ontario, who won a jitterbug contest and has come to Hollywood to make it big. And her aunt is an actress, and she's going to let her stay in her apartment in this old Hollywood neighborhood. And the two of them meet each other. Betty tries to start her Hollywood career and tries to help Rita, as she decides to call herself in the meantime, learn who she really was, what happened to her. And we also see Justin Theroux as a director with mysterious forces interfering with the movie he wants to make, telling him, you must cast this girl. No questions asked. It has to be her. Everything
Mhm.
else in the movie is completely up to you, but this is the girl.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that also feels like a good synopsis of the movie too. Everything else in the movie is up to you, the viewer, but that is at least the like this stuff happened.
It did. Yes. Yes. It's funny that you talked about how this is a movie that can't really be spoiled. Because if I say what the end of the movie is, it doesn't make sense and it doesn't tell you anything.
That's what I'm getting at, right? Like it's kind of left so up in the air as to what happened and how it happened. Did it happen?
Right,
Is this all a cycle that's happening over and over again?
Right.
Yeah.
If there are parts of this movie that are unreality, and there likely are, which parts?
Right.
There's a lot to argue about.
Yeah, indeed. So go check it out if you have not already. And I guess with that, we should get into some housekeeping. When we come back, we will dive a little bit deeper into this film here. So we will be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts, and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, welcome back, everyone. A big shout out to our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much. We appreciate you. It means a ton.
Thank you.
Over on the Pilots Club, we just recorded an episode on The Killing. We watched the original Danish version of the show. I don't remember the actual name of the Danish version. It's like Forbrydelsen or something like that.
For Bridaldson?
It's something like that. But yeah, the English title is The Killing. There is also an American version of the show with the exact same name, but like I said, we watched the original Danish. This is a crime show that I have heard a lot about over the years. People really, really enjoyed the show, and more recently was even referenced in Agatha All Along. Right there in the first episode of that show there. So we got to watch that and talk about that pilot. And then over on the free version of the Pilots Club, we are going to be releasing our episode on Bob Patterson. Just did a really interesting piece of lost media in that they made multiple episodes of this, but so many
By
of them
multiple,
are
we
lost.
mean like 9.
Yeah.
Single-digit number of episodes.
But the pilot is out there. You guys can go watch that, most likely on YouTube. But that's just the double sitcom. Good fun, right?
Yeah, it is a post-Seinfeld attempt where Jason Alexander plays the third most popular self-help author in America.
Right here on this show, recently, I finally, after like 7 years of trying, finally got Melissa to talk about Gundam with me. So that is it. No more Gundam on the show. It's never happening again. I got my one chance.
You spent your Gundam ticket.
And we watched the 3 compilation movies of the original show, Mobile Suit Gundam 1, 2, and 3. So I you guys can go check that out. I had a blast talking about that one. Over on the Captain's Log, I also something else that I got to talk to Melissa about, kind of for the first time for real on the show, was Formula One. I've mentioned over the years that I had been getting into Formula One, but since there is an F1 movie coming out later this year and the F1 season recently just got started, we were like, hey, it'd be a good time for like a primer. Like if you know nothing about Formula One, let me explain it. I made a whole presentation.
You did, so make sure you watch the video episode for that one. It really helped a lot. It was very informative, very fun.
Good, I'm glad. And last but not least, we have the second half of our Severance Season 2 coverage up on the podcast feeds. So if you also recently finished Season 2 of that show, go check it out. Got to talk about more of the mysteries and things we'd like to see in Season 3. So fun stuff with all of that. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into some spoilers for Mulholland Drive.
Kyle,
Yes.
I would like to lead with, in the early to mid 2000s, there was some DVD release of this movie.
Okay.
On which they had David Lynch write 10 clues to unlocking this thriller. And I think these are mostly nonsense. I mean, they're real things to follow and keep track of and deride your own meaning from, but the answer isn't here. This isn't like the teacher's copy of a textbook with all the answers in it.
It's to me, even without hearing them, it sounds like the idea of like even red herrings are clues that will eventually point you in a direction, but
Right.
right, they
It
are
proves that they are not that. Yes.
yeah.
These are the 10 clues.
Okay.
Pay particular attention in the beginning of the film. At least 2 clues are revealed before the credits. Notice
Okay.
appearances of the red lampshade. Can you hear the Did you not notice the appearance of the red lampshade, Kyle?
I did not.
Can you hear the title of the film that Adam Kesher is auditioning actresses for? Is it mentioned again? An accident is a terrible event. Notice the location of the accident. Who gives a key and why?
Yeah.
Notice the robe, the ashtray, the coffee cup. What is felt, realized, and gathered at the Club Silencio? Did talent alone help Camilla? Note the occurrences surrounding the man behind Winkie's. And finally, where is Aunt Ruth? Does that
Yeah.
help at all, Kyle? Is it all clear now?
It has solved everything. I feel like I can take on and challenge God. So yeah. Uh Problem solved.
Pearly Gates, like, I
Yeah.
noticed appearances of the red lampshade. You gotta let me in. That's what it takes, right? These are your 10 commandments.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, so this was my first time watching this movie. So there are
Mm.
things like that I'm sure people have spoken about for years at this point or theorized on that I haven't even caught on to yet. What is this the red lampshade? Does the color of the lampshade in their house change at one point?
No, it's not that. This is a movie that even knowing these 10 clues before I watched it, now I've seen it twice and I watched it on the big screen, like
Yeah.
full attention, completely locked in, massive images on a huge silver screen. There's so many brief cuts in this film. I would have to see like the shot list to
Mm,
really follow this thing. Early in the film, there is an abrupt cut to a phone ringing and somebody picks up the phone. I think you just, or maybe they don't even pick up the phone. You just see like an end table for
yeah.
10 seconds and then it cuts to something else. But that's the red lampshade. And I think you ultimately see that the red lampshade, that tableau is in Diana Selwyn's apartment, but it's Diana Selwyn as played by Naomi Watts in the final piece of the film when she's sad. It's it's there.
Hmm.
The bad timeline.
Yeah. Have no idea what that means. um yeah, God, like that's the thing that I really really enjoy about the small amount I've seen of Lynch's work, is that so much of it is just up for artistic interpretation. Um, Even in Twin Peaks: The Return, there's a lot of imagery that's also here in Mulholland Drive from stuff like that. Just like here's 10 seconds of a phone ringing to like here's a fancy theater and weird things are happening in the theater, right? Like what could that possibly mean? Or just like weird but is that the mom and dad, did they die? Why are they little people now in this one scene crawling out of this thing? Like
What?
what? The whole thing is
I
just
love I love them. I love that. So that's the old lady Betty meets on the plane flying to Hollywood.
Mm,
And then you see her help the old lady in the car. And she's so cute, so cheerful. I'll be watching for you up on the big screen, Betty.
right,
And then
yeah.
she gets into the car with this man you presume is her husband. although he's only credited as Irene's companion. So who knows their
Irene.
relationship? They get in the back of a limo, and as they drive away, they both cackle.
Yeah.
And you never see them again until
She
the
starts
final part of
slapping
the
his
movie when
knee
they
like
one inch tall and they go door. Like, that is how the movie ends. A tiny old pair of folks crawl out from under a door. Like, you can't. That's not a traditional spoiler. That's not Bruce Willis was a ghost the whole time.
right?
Just do anything for it.
Not at all. In fact, it makes it more confusing of just
Right.
like I don't think I understood this. I don't.
I'd I'd love to do a case study to find some person who has not seen Mulholland Drive, and they're like, "Oh, I've heard of that. What happens in it?" Somebody who is at that level, where they've
Mm.
not seen the movie, but will ask that question about it. They won't completely ignore you, and you're like, "Great, great movie. Gotta tell you, at the end, 2 little old people crawl out from under a door," and then see what that person says. If they're like, "You told me how it ends, now I'm not gonna watch it."
I mean, I could see that happening a lot, and then we have to be like, but like watch it anyways because that makes no sense with the rest of the movie, or does it? No one knows, and that's well, like I that's kind of what I love about this. That like there is so much you can dig into and try to find your own meaning in. It might have nothing to do with any of that, but I think a
Mm,
lot of art, all it really wants to do is create a connection. It wants to remind you of a certain memory or a feeling or an emotion. And if you can create a connection like that with a piece of art, then that art has value. Um, and even in something that is seemingly nonsensical, it can still evoke such strong emotions,
yes.
right? And make you feel things. And like you said, there's this sense of dread over a lot of it, but it can also like at the start of it, I'm sitting there like, how are you not like screaming at who this other person is? Like, get out of my house! Who the hell are you? What's going on? Right? Like, no, like I'm like running into the kitchen to pick up a kitchen knife and get the phone to call 911. She's just like, oh,
Mm.
sorry, didn't mean to walk in on you naked.
But
Everything
also,
good?
I'm not leaving. I'm just gonna still talk at the
Right,
shower door
yeah.
and explain who I am.
Right, it's just like, what are you doing? That she might be there to murder you. Um,
Right. It nothing operates on behavior a real human person would have, but you don't mind.
yeah. But then also like it like later on in the movie, like you said, like it gets very erotic, and it's also in the midst of that, like I'm wondering in the back of my mind, like, is this a movie where this person is gonna take the other one's identity and like pretend to be
Mhm.
that? Like I'm having those thoughts in the back of my head
No,
as
but not completely no.
right, but like there is that like sense of fear and dread and horror in the midst of like, but it's also two hot women naked making out, and right, like so yeah, it's just it's I don't know what to feel. It's complicated, but I'm having all of these thoughts and feelings, and being like, I really enjoy what I'm watching, but also I don't know if I understand what I'm watching here.
I'd like to invoke the Tenet rule, knowing that you never finished the movie Tenet, one of your greatest crimes against cinema. Don't try to understand it, just feel it.
Yeah,
And you
yeah,
felt it.
yes, yeah,
Mission accomplished.
absolutely.
I I want to ask a question about genre. We'll get to the
Okay.
actual plot of this thing. Would you describe this movie as a noir?
Uh, in feeling sometimes, Yes.
Yes.
But I think kind of along the lines of what we alluded to, it has so many different genres
Yeah.
in there that it's kind of hard to nail it down as one singular thing, right?
Mhm.
Are there bits that are neo noir? Absolutely. There's also bits
Mhm.
that do seem like, oh, this is a pilot of a cheery, chipper TV show, and then there's all other bits that are like, this is a horror story, or this is
Right.
a yeah. There's all sorts of stuff in there.
And that's what I wanted to get at. There are neo noirs that wherein horrifying things happen, tragic things, chilling things. I've never seen a neo noir I would describe as scary, except this one. Can you name one?
I not off the top of my head, but in terms of the genre in particular, I feel like the horror often comes with reality of just like the reality of the situation that
Or,
they're like
or
someone gets murdered or goes missing,
mm,
right? Like that is the horror of the genre.
and there's terrifying violence. Like you
Yeah.
might say, there's parts of Drive where I have to close my eyes. I can't look at it. But this movie, for having things like this mysterious, beautiful, dark-haired woman and an investigation where you get in over your head and there's like a wild sleaze bag out there that may or may not be after you. It has a lot of these noir trappings,
Mhm.
but then it also has the uncanny, sickening feeling of Patrick Fischler walking behind Winkie's to see a man of pure fear.
Yeah, who
Like,
just
that's
like
different.
pokes his
That's a different
head out
realm.
of like, why are I hear footsteps? And he just like pops his head out and it gives him a heart attack, right? And he's just like, ah.
Oh, the again, the one thing I knew about this movie going into it, and I thought that when I saw it in context, it would make more sense, and it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's still a helpful tool to try and understand the rest of the movie, I think. But yeah,
I
it
would
is
think
so
so
funny
too.
that you
Yeah.
would imagine that this man behind Winkie's to be a threat, but instead he just like pokes his head out like, "Hey, I heard footsteps." No? Okay. Does
Right. Yeah.
nothing. Doesn't
It's
even
like,
really look at you that
oh,
hard.
damn,
It's
dude, you all
there and
right?
it's gone. Right. Just hanging out there in full daylight, not
Yeah.
doing anything. Maybe
But
that's
like,
the scariest part.
that's like what's so interesting to me about that scene. Let's start talking about
Okay,
that scene,
let's
because
start at Winkie's.
what's so interesting to me about that scene is especially in that part where they are walking out of the back. Sorry, well, let me back up to set the stage. It's these two guys sitting at a booth in a diner, and one of them is confessing this like, I just had this weird dream, but he's so into it and so passionate, but so like harrowed by the dream that he had.
Yes, it's a scary dream, but he's saying it like, "You wouldn't believe this. Can I tell you this wacky story?" But within the wacky story, he is describing the time in his life when he has never before felt so scared.
Yeah, and he's like, we're in this diner, you're standing over there, I look back at you and I can tell you're scared too. Like, you just give me this look and you're scared, and that makes me scared. And then like something, there's this guy behind the thing, and so they're like, it's just a dream, like let's go check it out, like that's not really gonna be what happens. And then they go, as they're walking back, it shifts to this like first person perspective, like as they are going down there, and there's something about like that perspective that just is like
Yes.
as
Yes.
terrifying as I'm sure he feels. This idea of what's around the corner, what will you see? It's just a
Mhm.
homeless guy, but like right. it's terrifying in the moment of like not being able to see just around the corner, but
Mhm.
also this feeling of I feel trapped inside this other person's body. Like
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
looking through his eyes there. Like that's what was going through my head in that moment, and especially as the movie went on, because I think it does that a couple other times in the film where it switches
Uh,
to this first person perspective. Um,
yes.
but yeah, like that was the sense of dread for me. This idea of like being consumed by a person or being stuck inside them, like in an identity
Yeah.
inside a second identity. uh
Yes.
right, and yeah, like we said, there was this idea of like, is Rita gonna kill Betty and take over her life? What's happening here? Like, I don't know. Are they just gonna be lesbian lovers and that's it? Are they really gonna find out you're right, like, you don't know. But then also, when Betty happens to go to the production stage where Justin Theroux's character is making the movie, it almost feels like she's someone else, like that they're mistaking her identity for someone else in this idea of like, no, it needs to be her. Like there's this conspiracy around her, but she's also unaware of that, right? Like,
It's not her. She's not the girl. The girl is Camilla Rhodes. She's the girl who they show
right,
her
right, right.
they show Justin throw the headshot at that meeting where the guy spits out the espresso and the other guy is so scared that he is literally shaking. That guy spits out his espresso, will not spit it back into the cup. Will dribble it out on a napkin.
Yeah, yeah. But
It's bad
even
times. It's that woman.
even in that scene when she sees the director and he looks back at her, there's this recognition between them that scares her off, right? um and I like it. To me, it felt like some kind of thing around mistaken identity, right? Obviously, we don't get
Perhaps.
the whole idea. Like, we don't really know what's happening with that conspiracy, or why it had to be that girl specifically, right? But then also the whole start of Rita's story of her like being almost in this, like being in this car accident, but also almost being murdered out there at the same time. And then at the end of the movie, having the other character be in that same position. And so, right, it feels cyclical of like, was Betty dreaming Rita, or was Rita dreaming Betty? Is this the movie that Justin Theroux is making? What's happening here? Wheels within wheels is all I'm trying
That's
to say.
I like how you framed it as these recursive capsule identities. The thing on the no part of it is false. There's not a true and a false. It's everything's real. It's just different levels of real, different
Yeah.
layers of real, all layered over each other. I think that's a good way to look at this movie. I There is dream imagery. One of the
Mm-hmm.
2 clues revealed before the credits roll at the beginning of the movie, it starts with the jitterbug contest, and
Yep.
then you do see, from somebody's perspective, a POV shot of an unknown person, somebody going to bed, somebody, like, head hitting the pillow,
Yeah.
and I want to say that is Diana Selwyn's bedding, but I'd have to double check. Um, and you would say, if that was her bedding, the configuration at the end of the movie where Naomi Watts is Diana Selwyn, this sad, struggling actress, and Rita is this successful actress, star of the movie, had an affair with Naomi Watts, but tossed her aside. Now she's with Justin Theroux, but also she's with Camilla Rhodes. And she seems to invite Naomi Watts to the party only to taunt her.
Right.
You could say that is waking up from a dream, and the earlier portion of the movie was a dream. That feels a little too cut and dried and a little too cynical for a director who was fascinated with dark underbellies. I would not call David Lynch a cynical person. I think there are moments of whimsy and warmth and empathy throughout his works. He
Yes,
speaks
absolutely.
positively of his childhood. He's like, I was in this sort of suburban dream and I really liked it. I
Yeah.
had a happy childhood. Like, he's not somebody with an axe to grind. He doesn't have a grudge. His movies are commentary on the human condition, but nothing specifically societal, sociological in the same way. So it seems a little bit, I don't want to deny the later portions of the movie being the reality and the earlier portions of the movie being a dream,
Mhm.
just because we end on a bummer. But there is something about it. The final part of this movie, we'll call it the final act. I don't know exactly how the act structure breaks out. That section of the movie is much flatter than the earlier portions. It has less changes in tone and in emotion. It's just sort of sad and sour all the way through. Whereas, like, the first two acts had highs and lows. It had sad things, it had joyous things, it had surprise, it had horror, it had eroticism, it had everything in it.
Mhm.
And for it to just flatten out and withdraw to one tone, I don't know if that's what reality would be versus what the dream would be. Um, there's other differences between these two parts of the movie. In that final act, there's flashbacks, whereas the earlier portions of the movie, for all of the non sequiturs, there's nothing that is very clearly a flashback after you get out of the
Right.
jitterbug contest. It seems to be mostly linear. You have no idea where you are, but you don't think you're in the past at any point.
Mm.
We think that Patrick Fischler having breakfast at Winkie's is in the same concurrent timeline as Betty arriving to Hollywood. Whereas in the final act, there are flashbacks. You see her hiring Mark Pellegrino, for instance. And to talk about Patrick Fischler, to talk about that scene at Winkie's, we have no context for who those two men are.
Right. Yeah.
They don't seem to be connected to anything. And we don't know what their role would be in the series. We don't know, are these friends? Are these foes? Are these characters who have power? Are these characters who don't? And in the final act of the movie, when Naomi Watts is in Winkies, you see Patrick Fischler standing back there.
Yeah.
And it's the same way that he described to his breakfast guest seeing him. He's like, I have this dream where I'm in Winkies, this exact Winkies, and you're standing over there.
Yeah.
So now he's playing that same role in whatever Naomi Watts is experiencing. And what he had said about the figure behind Winkies, he's like, I hope I never see that face again outside of a dream. So I wonder if his presence is a stronger indication. If anything is a dream, if you decide to go down the road of it's one or it's other, one part of this movie is a dream, one part is not, I think he lends more credence to the fact that the back half of the movie that's the dream.
Mm.
If one
Interesting.
of them must be a dream, I think it's that part of the movie, not the beginning.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, as you were describing that, the thoughts that were going through my head is like some kind of quantum entanglement of like Are they somehow connected? There is a reference to I think two detectives later on in the back half of the movie. I think we assume they're the men that are out there, but I wonder if they are supposed to be detectives, or something like that.
Mm.
Um, but we don't know, and I think that's fascinating that we can just sit here and be
Yeah.
like, gee whiz, I have no idea.
Yeah, there's characters who you don't understand. Not only do you not understand who they are, you don't understand what they mean.
Right. Even I don't remember the actor's name. The other actor that was in Lost, who plays Jacob in
Yes,
Lost.
Mark Pellegrino.
Yeah, like he's obviously some kind of like hitman, but
Yeah.
beyond like assuming that, there's not much that we know about him and what these keys mean, and this blue key. But there was also this other blue key for this box that maybe one of the characters got sucked into. Right? Like I don't. But that stuff is kind of fascinating because it creates this weird through line of an iconic image. And even if we change the shape of that key, you still recognize something else as a key.
Yes.
And I I
Yes.
I think, if you want to go down the road of like multiple universes or different time, like a cyclical nature of something, I think you can read into that a little bit to be like, they're overlapping, right? Like it's a similar thing that's happening in that timeline that's happening here in this one. um I have not looked into it deep enough to really know all the ins and outs of that, but that's what it feels like to me, right? Where, or even like the feeling of a deja vu, where like you
Mm.
feel like you've been at a certain place before, or like like you were there and you were standing there and it's happened before, but like things are just ever so slightly
Yes.
off, right? Like yeah, that it's absolutely fascinating, that Lynch is able to capture these dreamlike feelings and emotions.
Mm.
It just
He
bananas. Yeah.
he was always an artist very informed by his dreams, and
Hmm.
one story that meant a lot to him was The Wizard of Oz. There's a documentary out there called like Lynch/Oz that's all about the parallels between his work and The Wizard of Oz.
Nice.
And that is what that story is. It's everything is here, but it's in a different configuration. The same people Dorothy knows in her waking life, the three farm hands, Mrs.
Hmm.
Gulch, when she goes to Oz, when she enters this dream world, not so literally as falling asleep, a dream world in that it's fantastical. They're there just with different playing similar roles, but they're heightened, they're more intense, there's different dressing, and then she
Yeah.
wakes up and it's back to normal. All the same pieces are there in the same places, they just look different. And
And they're
in
oddly
the different
blurry,
phases of
right? Like that's the like uncanniness of Lynch's stuff, of just like,
yes.
and it's also blurry or distorted somehow.
Yes. Like in the different phases of this movie, a lot of the same pieces are there, but not in the same place. Or they've swapped around, or suddenly there's a new piece that appears. It's never as neat as
Hmm.
Wizard of Oz is.
Yeah. Yeah. um so what was the deal? Help me to understand, if you can. um they are looking for Diana Selwyn, right? That's They go to her apartment. They
Mhm.
knock on the door. It's like, oh, go to the other one. We switched places. It seems like maybe they had some kind of relationship, and one of them got kicked out.
Unclear.
Yeah.
Yes.
But then, yeah, they like hop in the window to get into this other apartment, and then like we get a shift in the movie where it seems like the reality has shifted, and it seems like the two of them have been living in that house for some time and are now about to break up.
There's a
What's going
lot of
on
stuff
there?
that there's a lot of stuff that happens in between those things. The shift in reality is not until later. I think that when they find Diana Selwyn's apartment, and when they run out and Rita is so shaken, the camera literally shakes. I feel
Hmm.
like that would have been the end of the TV pilot.
Mm,
And then I'm not exactly sure though. And then they go home, they sleep together, they go to Club Silencio. That weird little box just like manifests itself in one of their purses. I don't think we'd seen the little box before. Then they go home, and there's this really chilling bit where the camera follows the two of them coming home. Um, Betty is holding the box. We see Betty set the box down on the bed, and then she walks off frame as the camera stays on Rita, who's going to get like the money out of the closet. And then Rita turns around and she acts like Betty has disappeared.
right.
Whereas to us, the audience, we're like, well, the camera stayed stationary. Her character just kept walking. Surely she must be over there. This is how movie language works. We have object permanence. But Rita's like, Betty, where are you? Where did you go? And we did not see Betty disappear. We saw her exit the frame, but that's usually different. But
Yeah.
here it apparently is the same. She exited frame and disappeared. It it's not a thing movies do. It's really jarring. That's something that really got to me on this second watch, just how eerie that one sequence is.
Yeah.
And I think that's when she puts the funny little key in the box, opens the box up, falls in, and then um it's Naomi Watts is Diana Selwyn, and then Rita is the starlet who she's has a relationship with, but seems like is leaving her for Justin Theroux.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Um, God, it's just it's so hard to dissect when you kind of don't like it, you're not pulling out intestines, you're like spooting through soup, and as soon as you move
Yes.
something to the side, like other things fill it in, right?
I
It's
really wish I had this movie like shot by shot and I could mark it up like on a sports show with with the yellow pen with the X and the
yeah,
circles. I wish I could do a
absolutely.
football play of this movie, but
You know
I don't
how
think it's possible.
there has to be something like this out there. You've seen those podcasts that do the like, we're watching one movie minute by
Oh,
minute, right?
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And like they spend an entire episode on a single minute of the film to just break down like what's happening on screen. Let's look at the compositions. Let's look at what the actresses say or stuff like that. I feel like there has to be some. I mean, you already mentioned the like blank check, like let's go
Uh-huh.
through all of David Lynch's stuff, but there has to be one that's like let's go through it with an even more fine-tooth comb here and really dissect this.
I've mentioned the YouTube show Welcome to the Basement, which it's been running for like 12 years. Twice
Nice.
a month, a guy invites a buddy over to his basement, his nice little basement theater, and is like, here's a movie I've never seen before. Sit down, watch it with me. Every episode of the show is like a 20 to 30-minute cut together of clips of the movie. They summarize the whole plot and they show you them on the couch, like joking around. So they're riffing on it. It's kind of Mystery Science Theater 3000, but also with like very smart film criticism in there. They talked once about trying something called the cinema immersion tank, where you
Mm,
pick one movie and Monday through Friday, you watch it 5 nights in a row.
a Xerox of a Xerox of a Xerox of.
Right, and it's not something they've, like, done a full episode on, but, like, they've challenged themselves, they've done it on in their off time and then reported back. They've had fans of the show write in about what movies they picked.
Yeah.
This is a cinema immersion tank movie.
Absolutely. Yeah, this feels like the kind of movie that, depending on where you're at in your walk of life, right, or how you identify as a person,
Mhm.
depending on your sexuality or lack thereof, right, like you might relate to this movie differently and pull something else
Mhm.
out of it. Um, and yeah, that to me is it when art can do stuff like that, and not just like I said earlier on, like it make you feel that one emotional connection or something like that, but can that connection can change over time.
Yeah.
I think that's also just absolutely incredible. um
Yeah. There's so many facets to this thing. You can look at it from different angles. It can grow with you. Maybe sometimes you watch the movie and you feel like a Betty, and sometimes you feel like a Justin Theroux,
yeah,
who we've not talked about as much yet.
let's
He
go back to him, because
Yes.
he's
I
fascinating.
I
I
you know
feel like I've been saying that word a lot. Fascinating,
Yes.
interesting. He's one. So we we've liked him in a number of other shows that we've
Mm.
watched and stuff here on the review show. Uh, he feels like he should be this hot shot director that's kind of full of himself. He's a movie star. Like I'm in the business, baby.
Mm.
Uh, but he just feels like this small little man in this movie here.
I think he might feel like a big shot, or maybe we have very little context for him, but
Yeah,
you can imagine he is on the verge of becoming a big shot. Like, the comp might be, this is Quentin Tarantino after Reservoir Dogs, maybe
right.
after Pulp
He's made
Fiction.
a hit and a half,
Right. A
maybe
hit and a half
now.
is a good way to put it.
And the execs are starting to take notice, being like, hey, we want you,
Yes.
you're the guy, we want you to make us some money, but this is the girl, right? And he is
And
not, he's like, no, this is my movie. I get to pick who's in this. I don't want you to railroad me into a corner here.
it he is now the instrument of some inscrutable larger plan.
Yeah,
We are shown Camilla Rhodes's headshot. We are told this is the girl. When you see her audition, there's nothing wrong with her, but there's nothing inspiring about her either. She's
yeah,
just there. She's just like, she would be a fine choice. She wouldn't destroy your movie. She wouldn't make it that much better either. The sort of
right.
mundanity of Camilla Rhodes is mystifying. And they never explain why. They never quantify it as, look, don't you know whose daughter this is? Or, we've heard buzz of her the art film she did that's playing at Cannes. Like, they don't give any reasons for their argument. It's not an
Mhm.
argument, it's a command. It's a prophecy. This is the girl.
Right, but he feels like a man who is no longer in control of his life.
Not at all.
Because right, his movie is not completely being taken over, but like we said, there's this actress that they are being like, no, it has to be her, right? Then he goes home and finds that his wife is cheating on him with Billy Ray Cyrus. And just without saying a word, the funniest sequence in the entirety of the movie, he just like takes her jewelry box, walks out to the kitchen, finds this like bright pink paint, and just like silently starts pouring the paint on all of this stuff. As the wife is like, "No, what are you doing? You can't do this to me."
It's
And
It's destructive, but it's not one of the usual models of destructive. It's not like keying a car, slashing a tire.
right,
It's not like what he does earlier in the movie where he breaks a car windshield with a golf club. These are all types of destruction you know well, that you have seen, that you can imagine a character in his situation would immediately go to. Pouring
Yeah.
paint in the jewelry boxes. It's a new one. Never seen it before or since.
But like even both me and my partner when we were watching this was like, look, if you're at the point where you catch your partner cheating on you and you're just completely done with the relationship, that you're like, all right, this jewelry box is all mine now, like, why don't you go take that and sell it? Like, it's just like, no, I'm gonna
You
pour
he
paint
should have
in
sold
this.
he should have sold it, because we find out later he's broke. These forces that be make him be broke. He should have
Yeah,
saved the jewelry. What you said earlier about the identities being layered on each other, he's not destroying the jewelry. He is merely covering it with something that changes its appearance, but not its nature.
right. It's still jewelry. It's just covered in pink paint now, right?
Right, which might be a nice mirror to the journey our main characters are going on.
Exactly. I think even to go back to the dream conversation in Winkies, right? There is this fear of kind of discovering something new, or just discovering a new path. That
Mhm.
I think that character is failing, and the idea of Betty being this young, starry-eyed actress or wannabe actress, right? She's kind of naive in that sense of like, I just moved here to make it big, right? And she does not know yet what the industry is going to ask her to do.
Mhm.
It could be something horrifying, could be something that changes her as a person, could be something where she becomes unrecognizable, right? Like there is this idea that even these things that almost seemingly have nothing to do with Betty and Rita's story are
Mhm.
also still kind of metaphors for the characters and what they're going through, in some really interesting ways there, but also not obvious ways, right? Like I also feel like a lot of our conversation, if someone who is they don't really care to look at a movie critically or stuff like that, and they were to hear our conversation, would just be like, all of this just sounds like bullshit. To which it's like, well, you're not wrong, but also like, right, like,
This is the movie for bullshitting. If you want to not do that, you have every right. You're fully within your right to just watch a dumb, simple thing. I
right, yeah,
support you, but
that
this
that
is
is
not that.
that
This is
is
not turn off your brain entertainment.
they're like, that is like a cynical value that I myself sometimes have when I try to explain what art school was like to other people and stuff, of like, so yeah, we had to critique art all day, from stuff we saw in history to stuff that our like the other students made. We just had to critique things constantly, and so there was this idea of like, well, how do you know what to say, like all of that, and it's like, you kind of just have to say something, right?
Mhm.
And or to explain and defend your own artwork, right? In that same way, you kind of just have to, yes, this represents the man's inner struggle between his innate goodness and the darkness which has enveloped the world today, right? And it's like, it's just complete bullshit, but you kind of have to say something. But at the same time, you also do want to have genuine purpose with what you make and all of that stuff, because then it will hold these emotional connections. Like, as non sequitur as a lot of Lynch's films can be, or what they feel like they can be to me, because again, I have not seen much. It feels purposeful. Like, he feels like he truly is doing stuff for a reason, even if it's just to fuck with you, right? of like I'm not gonna tell you what
N
this means
not
because
to
I
fuck
want
with you,
you
not to be a mischievous little trickster, but to get you to,
to get you to have your
uh
own reaction and make up your own
yes,
connection, right? Yeah.
right, to sort of get you on your back foot and get you in maybe a sense of discomfort or uncertainty or unease
Hmm.
to get to that dreamlike state. I think that he was always like trying to reach for something that might not feel like literal reality, but speaks to some sort of like deep innate truth.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Indeed,
What
nailed
about
it.
the cowboy?
Oh man, like this is kind of one of the things that felt like, oh, this is just the giant from Twin Peaks, the guy that like shows up and says like, we're not done with you, and then like back to reality, and then like, was that guy even real? What's happening
Mhm.
here? Right? Um, I don't know. But, yeah, he's just a cowboy. Like that's all.
And Justin Thoreau is the one character who's in any sort of a position to comment on things. He's not super snarky. He's not breaking the fourth wall or anything, but when somebody calls him and says, "You have to go see the cowboy," he's like, "I have to go see the cowboy?
Right? Yeah.
All
It's
right,
this
well,
like
yippee-ki-yay, here I am riding out on the range." And while he's talking to the cowboy, he's like, "I've seen enough that I feel like I should take you seriously, but like, come on. You're
it's
you're
it's
a cowboy."
it's this like exasperated sense of like suspension of disbelief, right? Like he's just
Yeah.
like, all right, have to go see the cowboy. And then he goes, and it's an actual cowboy, and he's just like, of course, it's an actual cowboy, right? Like, I, right? Like he's just like, all
Sometimes
right,
there's a buggy. Who's
I'm
driving the buggy?
I'm resigned to whatever
Resigned to
happens.
cowboy.
Yeah.
And the cowboy says, "If you do good, you'll see me one more time. If you do bad, you'll see me two more times." And we do
Once
ultimately
if by
see
good,
him.
twice if by bad.
We do see him twice. I forget the second time you see him. Maybe he's hanging around the studio or something, but the third time is he walks through the background of that
Mm,
party that Justin Theroux is throwing in the final part of the movie. He walks through in the background like that Community joke about
right.
Beetlejuice.
Right.
Like you're not even completely supposed to notice him on first glance. There he
Yeah.
is.
Interesting.
And we're in a separate continuity, whether or not you believe certain things are dreams or not. What that doesn't prove that Justin Theroux did bad because we're somewhere else entirely.
He might not
Did
have
he
actually
do good?
seen
Did he?
him, right?
Right.
Just because he's in the room does not
We
mean
see
that,
him.
right? Yeah.
The audience has seen him twice. Did the audience do bad?
How dare you watch this movie?
You didn't notice the red lampshade. We're going to punish you by showing you the cowboy a second time.
It's yeah, it's like I don't know because it feels like he is a messenger, but he also feels like he can be like is he some strange manifestation of a grim reaper kind of thing, like that kind of thing, right?
I
Like I don't know.
so about a month ago on the podcast, we read the comics Love Everlasting, which
Hmm.
are this meta horror take on old school romance comics. And there is a mysterious cowboy figure who is the equivalent of the Grim Reaper in that story. And I'm like, Kyle, you have no idea what is down the road for you. Just a short little while. It's another damn cowboy
Good stuff. I'm
where there
wondering if
should
that
not
even
be a
is
cowboy.
yeah, like I'm wondering if that is a reference to Mulholland Drive at all, or at least like some kind of like inspiration. Because I don't want to say that Love Everlasting is Lynchian in what it's doing, but there is some question of like, okay, what is reality here exactly in that comic? Um, so I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot in here. I will have to rewatch this at some point. I
Yes.
will. I feel like this is a good movie for like YouTube like essays and stuff like that.
I
Of
love
like,
those.
yeah. I'm sure
I
there's some great ones out there
I
on
love
this.
when a movie has been analyzed so many times that the thumbnail can just be like I watched a lot of theory videos about The Shining. That was one
Sure.
of my
Yeah.
pandemic lockdown distractions was
Yeah.
Shining theories. And you'd see videos where the thumbnail is just that chair. And if you know, you know. What does the chair mean? And this movie, I think, is on the same level of red lampshade, ashtray, coffee cup.
Right. Man. Yeah, and like that's the thing is usually with a movie of this much notoriety and fame, I sometimes
Mm,
feel inadequate trying to talk about it on our podcast. Just because, like, this movie's been talked to death by people who are more into media literacy than I am, who can say things more eloquently or can like lay out in argument or a critique in a way that is just like chef's kiss, beautiful, right? And sometimes I don't feel like any of my observations or takes add to any kind of conversation.
mhm.
But this one, even if I have not said anything new, still feels relevant because of how undefined
Yeah.
this is, right? Like, I don't feel inadequate only in the sense that like I probably do need to watch it a couple more times to notice a few more details and things, right? But like at the end of the day, I it feels like we're all just kind of in the same boat here.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like talking about Citizen Kane. And I don't mean that in the way that people refer to Citizen Kane as the highest of something, like
Right? Yeah.
saying an athlete is the Michael Jordan of their sport. Movies are called the Citizen Kane of X. I mean it just in that Citizen Kane is a very well respected film that has been analyzed and looked at for decades now, but it is not rife with the metaphor and symbolism it has are very obvious.
Yeah.
And further studies onto the film are more about the craft and less about what does the snow globe mean? Because we all know, like, there's less mystery to it. Whereas things like this that are pure mystery, they're more evergreen and they're more almost by being more inscrutable, they are more approachable.
Mm,
Because you don't have to know anything about like focal depth and aspect ratios or film history. Like you need to have a lot less context to still have something to say, to have valid questions and a helpful way of thinking when talking about a movie like Mulholland Drive.
yeah. Absolutely. Um, Beyond that, though, I don't know if I have much else to contribute or say. Like I feel like we could nitpick at certain details and it would just be us kind of saying
Not
a lot of the same things over
not
again.
nitpick, but
um
there are watching it subsequent viewings I think did introduce to me a lot more patterns.
Good.
I mentioned that the final act of the movie has flashbacks where we didn't have them before. The final act of the movie is also only on Naomi Watts, whereas the earlier part of the movie moved linearly, jumped around, had different perspectives. We were following what Justin Theroux was doing. We were following what Patrick Fischler was doing, even though we did not know who Patrick Fischler was.
Right.
Does this character have a name? I don't know. Man in
that
Winkies. Man
that
who had nightmare.
also feels like just a symptom of like, all right, let's edit together the pilot in a new way and then add on a few things, right? Maybe they were like, if this had ended up being a show, would have been a much more of a branching story, right? But it had to like and then kind of like expand a little bit and then go back into like, okay, we need to refocus it here.
And it's amazing that that does not break the entire experience. If anything, it enhances it. That
Yeah.
you're in a structure that you know so well, and then to have it disappear and you're left with just a thread of it. But it's still, it works. You're not mad. You're not if you're confused, you're like, you want to learn more.
Yeah. But that like
You're like,
that
there's got to be purpose behind this. I just have to untangle it.
that's what I think is so interesting about the metaphors of these almost seemingly unrelated scenes, right? Is like that structure where it opens up and then kind of refocuses and it like narrows down is also kind of the pathway that Justin Theroux's character, his life takes, right? He's starting to make it
Mm.
big and then railroaded down into him being broke, right? Uh, yeah, like I feel like you can point out connections in all sorts of different ways, or it's one of those images where it's like, how many triangles do you see, right? At a triangles and stuff like that. But that is why I feel like it works with that stuff.
Yeah.
Is even the structure of the film seemingly reinforces some of the metaphors in this or themes that are happening within it. So good stuff.
Very
Good
good stuff.
stuff indeed. All right, let me pull up our bingo cards on screen here to see if we got anything here. I did not get a fight in the rain or it's a cool stepson. I don't think I got a flip phone. Didn't see Times Square. No villain with a pet. No lost in a crowd. Oh man.
I have
sassy
foggy
grandparent. Yes, you have
No.
exactly what you were about to say.
I have foggy glass shower door for PG-13 nudity. This is an R-rated movie, but
That
you
one
know when she
scene,
sees Rita
yeah.
in the shower that's ABC at 8 p.m. level nudity.
Yeah.
Briefcase of cash.
Yes, it's not a briefcase.
It's a purse, but
I feel like, well, I feel like this fits because my kind of original intention behind it was in the like shady business deal kind of thing, right? And it feels like this money is a part of some kind of shady business deal, and it's just
we're
in
just
a purse
seeing it from the wrong
rather
end.
you're
You're used to seeing the briefcase of cash being the temptation to complete a deal, and now
it
we see
seems
the
like the
purse
cash
of
has
cash.
already transferred hands.
Yeah, and that's the mystery. Why does she have all that cash?
Yeah.
Who knows when they ever would have answered that. So you think I can get that one?
Yes.
Okay.
Also partly because I have that one on mine too. So
uncomfortable dinner party.
Yeah, you have an uncomfortable dinner party.
I think I have a 100% success rate with that square. I've never not crossed it off.
Movie backlot with stock character. We don't see the backlot per se.
And we don't see the stock characters of here's Vegas showgirl, here's Centurion.
Right.
It's here's just the cowboy. Who's not from the backlot, but that feels like where you should be seeing him.
Right. Yeah.
I have actor playing multiple roles.
I think that's all I have. I think all I have was the briefcase of cash. Oh, I also have uncomfortable dinner party. Hey, look at that.
You have shady business deal. That's what This Is the Girl is.
What do I have shady business deal? Where is that on my
It's underneath
thing?
power outage
Okay.
above step
I
scene.
Shady business deal. Are you thinking the like you can do your movie, but it needs to be this girl?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Shady business deal. Okay, that was better than I thought. I'm not gonna count the old woman as a nosy neighbor because I don't feel like she's truly nosy. Of like, what are you guys
Yeah,
doing in there?
she just has a prophecy.
Right. Yeah.
This movie is a mysterious old psychic woman for one scene, and then she gets shooed away.
Okay. Okay. I I think that's good. I think that's all I got for that one. Sound good? Sound good? All right.
Sounds good.
Let me push this back off screen so we can get to recommendations. Melissa, you said you had a long list with this one.
I do.
Hit me.
I am going to start with things that we have covered in the past here on the review show. Wouldn't you
Okay.
know it, over 300 episodes in, we are starting to develop real lexicons for certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Number one is Under the Silver Lake.
Yep.
We
That was going to
talked
be on
about
my
this
list.
on episode 279. This is a Hollywood set neo-noir where Andrew Garfield, in my favorite of all of his many skilled performances, plays
Absolutely
this
stellar.
just ne'er-do-well, just sort of just like a guy who like never pays his rent, seemingly doesn't have a job, just like plays video games all day, just has nothing going for him in his life. He
But
meets
is
this
still like a
beautiful
sweaty tryhard in a
right,
lot of stuff, right?
seems to want to be in some sort of creative arts but isn't.
Yeah.
Just has a lot of movie posters up in his apartment. Just a man who seemingly has nothing going for him meets this beautiful, mysterious new neighbor, thinks he could have a romance going with her, and then the next day finds out, oh, she moved out. And he's like, what do you mean she moved out? She just got here. She didn't mention she was going to move away. Where did she go? Why is everything out of her apartment overnight? I was just there.
Yeah.
And he won't let this go. He has to find out, where did she go? Was she kidnapped? And he uncovers this web of like, by going to a bunch of underground Hollywood hipster parties and like weird art shows, he
Yeah.
uncovers this conspiratorial web. You go all over town in this movie. It has a real sense of Hollywood lore to
Mm-hmm.
it, a real sense of history. Patrick Fischler was also in this. Is that correct? Isn't he the guy
I
who's like
think so.
you go to his house and he has the maze from the cereal box and he has the weird little room and he has the death masks of all the celebrities on his walls?
Yes, I
He's
think
in
that's
it for
him.
like 2 scenes. And in hindsight, I think that must have been a nod to Mulholland Drive because I think it shares a
Mm,
lot of DNA.
yeah. Yeah, it shares a lot of DNA, but I think Under the Silver Lake also goes into it's not wackier, but it like
It's it's both goofier, and this one is the cynical one in ways that I
yes.
don't feel like Mulholland Drive is. This one is like there is a seedy, dark underbelly of Hollywood that will infect
Yeah.
everything you love. But it's
And
still like such a bizarre experience that you have a fun time with it.
it is
The stakes
less
are so low.
it's less jumpy in terms of genre, right? This really is like a
Yes, yes.
psychological neo-noir thriller,
Yes, it is one thing more consistently all the way through.
which even psychological neo-noir thriller is like three genres mashed up, but it is wholly that, right? Uh,
Yes.
yeah.
What it is entirely. That's true. On episode 178, we watched the Netflix series Brand New Cherry Flavor.
Yeah. Good
This
call.
is maybe a little bit of a neo noir. And one of these days, we have to sit down with a timeline and determine when is neo noir. What's the line between noir and neo noir? And are there things on either side of it?
Are
Like,
are
have
we
we
now
surpassed
firmly
neo
in
noir?
post neo-noir, right?
Right. Well, wait, when is neo? Someday we'll figure that out. Brand New Cherry Flavor is mostly a body horror magical revenge drama about a young filmmaker who comes to Los Angeles, gets in a bad deal with an abusive producer, and makes a deal with a witch to get revenge on him. And
Mm-hmm.
then you see how that need for revenge poisons her life, and how she's maybe never going to get back to where she was or get anything what she wanted. She's taken it too far, perhaps. That also had Patrick Fischler in it. I'm not saying every time you see Patrick Fischler show up in anything, it's a nod to Mulholland Drive, but maybe 25% of the time it
Or is in something that if you were to like need to recommend oh, you liked that, here's something else you might like, right? He's also in that.
I thought about going through his IMDb, but he's such a hardworking character actor. I would have been lost in there all night.
Right, yeah.
On episode 304, we watched Ty West's entire X trilogy, but in particular, Maxine, the third film in that trilogy, is a set in Hollywood sleaze fest about an actress trying to make it.
Mm-hmm.
Also informed with a lot of Hollywood history. There is I would consider Mulholland Drive a progression in this thread that you and I have been cobbling together over years here on the review show. The line of, in the order in which we watch them, Perfect Blue, Black Swan, Suspiria, Persona. This is another
Mm.
one. What I call blurry women.
Sure, yeah. That's how I
It is
describe
women.
Lynch. Instead, like is like there he blurs lines somehow that it's just like, what is he doing? How?
It
How does he do this?
This particular family tree we're trying to create here, it's about women artists who have a blurring between themselves and other women in their lives, or between different aspects of their own lives, like who
Yeah,
they are privately and who they are publicly, and what is real and what is a role that they are playing. Black Swan also has a pivotal masturbation scene, just like Mulholland Drive has.
sure, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Persona, I'd have to revisit it. Doesn't Persona also have an element of which of these women is which and have they switched places?
I think we get to that more towards the end, or it's like that. It's a will they, won't they, but not necessarily in a like sexy way. But of like is something bad gonna happen here,
Right.
right?
It's a
Like,
will they, won't they, where you don't know what it is they will do, but you're like, there's something.
yeah, something is
Something's
happening
going to
here.
happen. I don't know if you're going to kiss or if one of you is going to stab the other one. Something's
Yeah,
going to happen here.
yeah. Um, yeah, just to add for like Perfect Blue and stuff like that, that's another one about an actress trying to make it in the industry right? That one, there is a lot of like not knowing what is real and what is not, what is dreamed up, what is someone else's interpretation of what is happening here, which version
Mhm.
of the character are we seeing. um that's one of my favorites, so I would second that recommendation too. And then of course, along with that, Black Swan that you already mentioned, just
Mhm.
this kind of identity within another identity, right?
Yeah, a lot of themes of switching places in that
Yeah,
movie.
indeed,
Well, all
indeed.
deserving of a rewatch, all deserving of being tracked. Now moving on to things we've not yet talked about on the review show. There is a movie also starring Natalie Portman called May December. You can find this on Netflix. This is a movie where Natalie Portman plays an actress who's going to star in a movie based on this true scandal, a story based on this Mary Kay Letourneau tale from our world, where there was an adult woman who had an affair and was impregnated by a 12-year-old boy,
Mm,
and then went on to the two of them got married and started a family. And in May December, Natalie Portman goes to visit that family to talk to the Julianne Moore, who's playing this woman who Natalie Portman is going to be playing in the
playing in
movie.
the movie, yeah.
And there is blurring between the two of them, where Natalie Portman maybe takes it too far, maybe takes
Interesting.
on too many of her affectations and her mannerisms and her behaviors and her desires and her darkness.
Yeah,
It's not in Hollywood, but there with her playing an actress, there's an element of it to that story. There if you want more Hollywood movies, there's The Disaster Artist. I could nominate The Room for a movie where people don't talk like real people and there's a lot of non sequitur scenes. Like, where did that guy go? What's this about? But more specifically, watch The Disaster Artist for the struggle of trying to make it in Hollywood and having a mysterious person in your life where you're like, I don't know where they came from, but I just do what they want me to do now, I guess. Scream 3. Please, if
okay.
you watch any Scream, watch every Scream. Watch them all in order. Every Scream is in a chronology and they build upon each other. But Scream 3 is the meta one, maybe the most meta one, where they go to Hollywood and there's a movie being made about the events from the first two Screams, and then everybody on the film set starts being killed. Then it has a great chase scene through like a seedy Hollywood mansion at the end of the movie. I
Great.
love those. I love getting to go to a seedy Hollywood mansion. It's one of my favorite movie sets. Uh, One of my favorite movies with a deep sense of unreality and stiltedness and bizarreness, and no person behaves like that. Why is this happening? Is Yorgos Lanthimos' The Killing of a Sacred Deer.
Still haven't seen
We've put a pin.
that one.
I would love to do it here on the review show. I would love to talk with you about that weird, weird movie. And finally, another of the great works from David Lynch. This is one I just saw for the first time like a week ago. Lost Highway. Lost Highway stars Bill Pullman as a jazz musician, and he's married to Patricia Arquette. And one day in the mail, they receive a VHS tape, and it's home movie of somebody walking into their house and watching them while they sleep. And while they try to figure this out,
Yikes.
Bill Pullman is framed for Patricia Arquette's murder, and he goes to jail. And then when he's in jail, he turns into Balthazar Getty. And the police are like, well, he's a different guy now. We can't keep holding him. That's not the man we arrested. I don't know how he got here, but I guess we have to let him free.
Yikes. Yeah, I don't know. That's terrifying.
I'd love to see a lawyer give us on what you would do in a Lost Highway situation. When a man in jail turns into a different man. Do you have to let him go? And then you just follow Balthazar Getty for a while, just being a greaser and getting into greaser trouble. And he
Huh.
meets Patricia Arquette too, but it's like a different Patricia Arquette. And then at the end of the movie, Patricia Arquette fucks him so good he turns back into Bill Pullman.
Damn. All right.
So we've another movie. It has a cyclical nature to it. It has doubles a sense of, is one thing reality and is one thing a dream? Are there two realities? Are there two dreams?
Hmm.
And a more literal, one person turns into another person. I really
Interesting.
recommend
Okay.
Lost Highway.
All right. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Kyle, what do you have?
I don't have much more to add because most of my list you already mentioned. Just another shout out to Ingmar Bergman's Persona. I think that's another really great one that is a lot more straightforward visually, right? It's not these quick cuts to seemingly non sequitur things. It's cameras that stay on characters for a lot longer, and you just have to sit with that. But yeah, is this idea of like these two women are just kind of out there talking and talking and talking, and it
Or not
seems
talking.
like or yeah, we're mad at each other, but like yeah, right, yeah, there is one that like lost their voice, but yeah, there is that thought of like, are they falling in love or falling into like, I'm gonna murder you and take your place kind of feelings?
Yep.
What's going on here? So highly recommend that one as well. The only other thing that I think I can add to this would be Satoshi Kon, or not Satoshi Kon's, Naoki Urasawa's 20th Century Boys. This is a manga that I really enjoy, but it is about this mysterious cult and how it all started. And it seems like this cult is following a lot of the plans that this group of kids made when they were kids, but now they're all adults and they're seeing this cult kind of take over the world. And it's just kind of this big conspiracy. So if you like the conspiracy side of this movie, I would recommend that, of like who came up with these ideas exactly, or who else might have overheard, or who spilled it, and the weird stuff that is happening there. I like that book a lot. So those would be my recommendations.
I have one more thing to throw out. It is not in format or style or motif or theme like Mulholland Drive,
Okay.
but it is like Mulholland Drive in how dense you can go with analyzing it and tracking it.
Sure.
Way back on episode 85, the one thing we've already covered that I want to cover again, Primer. I'd love to
Primer.
do Primer again. If ever there is a movie to do again, it's
Melissa, I also have one more thing to add on to this. Go watch The Big O. That is another one that like you can dig so much into that and what is happening and the theories of everything of why it's this certain way that it
when
would
are you
break
real?
you.
When are you a copy? Why don't you remember? There's a lot of Wizard of Oz parallels. Yes.
What's up with the tomatoes? Why is there weird religious symbolism in all of this here? Does that mean something? Yeah. Yeah, The Big O is a great anime where people just kind of it's another amnesia story. This whole
Hmm.
city has forgotten who they are. They're also seemingly the only city in existence right now, so that's weird. But no one remembers anything before a certain date, and they just kind of have to make their lives going forward. And is any of it real or not, or what's happening here? And there's giant mechs in it, so it's such a strange show, but it's so good.
We're due for a good watch on that.
I you know what,
Primer.
I wonder if
What?
there's some kind of YouTube essay out there on the Lynchian aspects of the Big O.
We need to start with a YouTube essay defining what is and is not Lynchian. Like defining when are
Sure, yeah,
you
yeah,
or are you not in a neo noir.
yeah.
We gotta have a dictionary of terms before we can go forward here.
Yeah.
I Primer is a micro budget little indie movie. So don't expect anything too flashy here. It is only in the script that it is out of control. I would
Mind
describe
bending.
Primer as Office Space meets The Prestige.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
What an elevator pitch, man. God.
What an only Primer.
It's a time travel story if you're unaware. It is yeah, it's these two guys who invent time travel, and by the end of the movie, like you're not really sure where you are in the time loop that they have created or they are creating, or if you're in a parallel universe by now or not, or what's happening. Like
I'll
there's
tell you
just
that you're not. It's all time travel. It is all one sort of thing. But the dry technicality of how the time travel works and how each of these two guys manipulates it in secret to their own devices without letting the other one know. And you watch the characters realize, when I was time travel variant number 4, my friend was time travel variant number 7, and I thought he was also number
right.
stuff. This is a whiteboard movie. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
this is get out the yellow marker. Here's an X, here's a circle, here's an arrow, play by play, here's the football sort of movie.
I have watched those YouTube videos.
I love those too. I
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Good stuff. Cool. Well, I think that wraps us up for our recommendations. So let's get on to what we will be covering next time on the
Oh
podcast.
god, that's right.
So Melissa and I have been doing this podcast for a long, long time. And in that time, we kind of tend to avoid just straight up comedies. They're good.
We
There's
haven't
nothing wrong with them. We've done a couple of them here and there, or ones that are
we've done
like
a few.
incidentally really funny.
Yeah, we've done a few comedic shows.
But generally
You're right. We
speaking,
have we
there's not
things
much.
that are primarily first and foremost capital C comedy, and that's kind of all they are. Not that they're bad at that, just like they fully own it. It is not an action comedy. It's
Right.
not it's like a comedy. We have done those less often for fear of our podcast episodes being like, remember that one part? That was hilarious. Remember one part? Oh, so funny.
Yeah. What a knee slapper. Um, but we just felt, you know what? Let's just have a funny month. let's watch something fun and funny and dumb and stupid, and so that's what we are doing. Melissa, you had your hands on your head like you were just like, oh no.
When I tried to search for the string of words, it didn't show up immediately, and I'm like, "Am I misremembering it?" And nope, there it was. But it was like Google was afraid to show it to me until I typed in the full title.
Right,
Like,
yeah.
only if you summon it can you find I was a teenage were-skunk.
There it is, ladies and gentlemen. That is what we will be talking about next episode. It is a low budget comedy movie, like horror comedy, but if you've ever seen on a streaming service like someone's low budget, probably college project that they worked on in their film class, this is similar to one of those, but has a higher budget and has like actual like a lot more people working on this to make this more of an actual thing. This is really cheesy. It is really funny. It's low budget, low effects. If you remember us talking about the Velocipaster, it's in that same wheelhouse there. But I Was a Teenage Were-Skunk is available for everyone to watch on Tubi.
Thank you, Tubi.
Yeah.
The Google sidebar description of this movie is: after an enchanted skunk sprays him in the face, a teenager turns into a murderous were-skunk every time he gets horny.
Yep.
People also search for the substance. And Deadpool and Wolverine and Wicked?
I guess
people who Google I Was a Teenage Were-Skunk have already Googled the biggest blockbusters of 2024, and they're like, well, what else is there?
If you're looking for this movie, you probably really like movies. So here are
right. Nobody who doesn't like movies wound up here.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about this one. I've already seen this one a couple years ago. Kind of forget some of the ins and outs and the jokes of this, but I remember really loving this one. I had a great time with this. My partner really loves movies like this, so we've seen a handful of them, some a lot better than others. This is one of the best ones that we have watched. This one is fantastic, so I think we're in for a great time. But yeah, cool. Well, that is what we will be talking about next time. So let's wrap things up right there. Melissa, where can the people get in contact with you on the internet?
Just email me. Let's act like it's the year Mulholland Drive came out in theaters and the only form of contact is just email me, please. Write to me and tell me, what do you think the chair means in The Shining? You know which chair. What's its deal?
Indeed. If you guys want to get in contact with
I didn't actually say my address. You can email me at yourhostmelissa@gmail.com.
There you go. I'm at Kyle Springer. If you'd like to stay up to date with all the stuff we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at thewhatnauts.com on Blue Sky. More YouTube videos on that side of the screen. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. This has been number 314 of the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.